Hi and welcome to this tutorial about Simutrans. Today's topics is setup, landscaping and the basic function. To start a new game, simple, click here, new game, and we now take this from top to bottom. Here, this is a small part of the map. Here you choose the size of the map. You can choose any specific map or you can generate random map. You can also load the map from a specific file. So if you prefer a map with more water, you maybe play around with the settings until you have a map you like. I prefer to have quite a lot of land. Down here is quite simple stuff, numbers of cities, density, road length and so on. Here you choose if you follow the timeline. The default start year is 1913. Here is beginner mode. Earlier they have other cheating method like don't going bankrupt, but the new feature is beginner mode. You get more money for the transport, so it is easier to play. Settings and so on. Settings I normally don't change, but landscape setting I change. I prefer to don't have any trees on my map. It's simpler to build. I'm quite satisfied with that map, so I will simply start the game down here. The first thing I normally do is to stop the time. Next thing is to save the game for the first time, and I save 2 times because the saving process sometimes crash and it's good to have a backup file too. I prefer to make my life as easy as possible. There is a lot of buildings in a town, but all buildings are not important. So I prefer to show only important buildings like City Hall and tourist attraction. I can change these settings up here. Let us now take a first look on this game. Down here you see the time. Human player, how much money you have. It also here you have the information list. Here comes information about new vehicle, for example. This is cursor position, and you see it change when I move the cursor. This information is of interest when you're driving tunnel, for example, underground, and don't see, for example, where the station are, because you can build station in several layers. There is a lot of buttons up here, and I can go through them now, but you will probably not remember them when you actually need to use them. So I plan to go through the button when it's time to use the functionality. But the most important ones are information button. And that are, for example, here, maps. And you can see here why I choose a quite big map. I prefer to have a lot of space, and I choose a map which simply fill up the windows quite well. In these settings, you see the town and the name of the town. And you also see that several towns have similar name. It's a good idea to change the name to more unique one, because in the line manager further down the line, when you play this game, you will probably have more unique name of the town, because you say this transport go from that town to that town, and it's simpler to read the name if they are more unique. To change the name of a town, it's simple. Click on the city hall, click here and write in the name you want. Let us take a closer look on the map, because they are quite useful. Up here you can change the setting of the map. For example, in the beginning you're normally more interested in the factory, not so much about the city, because city are not important before you start moving passenger and mail and so on. In the beginning you normally work with the factory because they are more lucrative investment. But you can, as you see, change a lot here. Industry list, here you see a color coding for what type of industry you have. Color grading are useful when you have, for example, activated the intensity of the street and lines. You can see if a line are congested. Information tool, if you click on something when that are active, you get information about what you click on. Landscaping, train, trams or light railroad, road vehicle, boat, aircraft, and so on. This is the general demolishing tool. It takes away everything. Under specific thing like road here, there is specific road demolition tools. Here is a very useful thing. The line manager is something you work a lot with in this game. List. There is a lot of list, but here is cargo list. It is here you get the information about how much money you are paid for the different type of cargo. So here you can make the choice about which investment are the most lucrative. If you miss information down here, you can find the information here in the message center. Finances. This company is now in a stable situation. We don't have any income and we have only construction cost. So if we don't build anything more, it will don't cost us money. This is a slicing tool. This is very useful if you're building tunnel, for example. And if you want to take a picture of what you actually are doing and send to your friends, you can do it here. Pause, play, fast forward and so on. Help zoom in, zoom out, grid, rotate the map and so on. There is a couple of things which don't place under its own episode, so I will take up this now. We start with tunnel. The simplest way to build a tunnel is to click on the side of the mountain and the tunnel is built. That is one way to build a tunnel. There is, however, another way. If you press the Control key on your keyboard, you only get an entering into the mountains. You don't get a complete tunnel. So if you don't want to build a tunnel straight through the mountain, that is how you do it. If we now take up the slicing tool, we see that this tunnel we build straight through the mountain are built and complete. This have only an entering, but that is useful in its own way, because we can, for example, build a crossing inside the mountain, like this. And you can also place station inside the mountain. So if you don't have room for building a station above ground, you can build it underground. Climbing hills and going down into lower grounds and so on takes time for train and vehicle. So when you have a little more money, you maybe want to reduce the traveling time by driving tunnel through the mountain like we did before. But if you don't should build a long distance, you can lower the mountain instead. This is a quite useful tool, but it's also a quite expensive tool. And you see, we use up a lot of money quickly. And if you run out of the money, your company going bankrupt, and that means game over. Now, for example, I can build a railway line through this mountain without climbing the top. But let us now continue to take a look what we can do more with this landscaping tool. Of course, lower the land, you can raise the land too, if you want. If you don't want to build a smooth surface, you can also building a box. And maybe have some ramp up to the box. And let us see, we should have a ramp down from the box too. And there is, for some reason, a very steep version of this, which I don't have found out why they actually have created. But they have. I don't know what I should use this for. You can also build lakes if you want. That could be useful, for example, for channel. I'm quite satisfied now. So if you should take something with you from this episode, it is that if you set up the game properly, you have set yourself up for a good playing experience. That was everything I have to show for the moment. Thanks for watching and have a nice day. In the next tutorial, we start building the company and we bring up the basic strategy and tactic in the game to play the game with success and don't bankrupting the company. And we start off with basic static infrastructure. Thanks for your time.